Hello, good folks. I haven't seen you guys in a very long time, and I apologize for that. I know that's partly my unavailability, um, partly the differences between our schedules, but I certainly do hope that you guys are doing well, and from what I hear, you guys are doing excellent, figuring things out on your own. So again, I am always here to help where I can. Um, so because of the hecticness of your schedule, I figured I'd just make these videos so that on your own time, you can go through it, pick up on things that you've missed. I'm really going to be hitting mostly the larger, high yield kind of things that bring it all together more than general principles or things that you can figure out on your own since you've been able to do that. So today we're going to focus on the pelvis and the perineum, the blood supply to it, and the sacral plexus. Um, this is what my tutor last year did for me and for the other few students that she tutored. We kind of just went straight through it instead of incorporating the book. So I'm not going to be really referencing book pages, but if you want to kind of take down notes while I talk, you can pick up on the things while you're reading it. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and start. We'll do 10-minute segments so that I can get this on YouTube. The first thing that we're going to start with is blood supply. Right? The pelvis and the perineum are all going to be supplied by the internal iliac artery, and those are of course coming off of the common iliac arteries, which branch off the aorta. Okay. We saw the external iliac artery in the lower leg. A lot of the branches that we talked about were from the external iliac artery. But here in the pelvis and the perineum, we're focused on the internal iliac artery. So that's going to be our kind of base point. So we have the internal iliac artery, and that splits into a posterior trunk and an anterior trunk. We'll start with the posterior trunk, and we'll go through the arteries that come off of it and the importance of some of those arteries. So the posterior trunk gives off the iliolumbar artery, the lateral sacral artery, there's two of them, and the superior gluteal artery. And that becomes the terminal branch of the posterior trunk, the superior gluteal artery. So the iliolumbar artery becomes spinal, lumbar, and iliac branches. The lumbar branches supply the posterior abdominal wall, the psoas, and the quadratus lumborum. The iliac branch supplies the iliac fossa and the iliacus. The lateral sacral arteries, the two of them, they supply the sacral canal, and the superior gluteal artery, it goes through the greater sciatic foramen above the piriformis. That should be a repeat from lower limb. So you guys should already know that superior gluteal artery, the terminal branch of the posterior trunk of the internal iliac artery, goes through the greater sciatic foramen above the piriformis, and you should know what it supplies. So now we'll get to the anterior trunk, which has a lot involved in it, so be patient, okay? We'll first start with the branches, and then we'll go into what the importance of each branch is, okay? So off of the anterior trunk of the internal iliac artery, you're going to have the inferior gluteal artery, the internal pudendal artery, a very important artery in the pelvis and the perineum, the middle rectal artery, the uterine artery, inferior vesical artery, also called the vaginal artery, the obturator artery, and the umbilical artery. Okay, so we'll go back to the inferior gluteal artery. So the inferior gluteal artery, which we saw with lower limb again, supplies the gluteal region and goes through the greater sciatic foramen below the piriformis. Above the piriformis is superior gluteal, below is inferior gluteal. And that makes sense. Inferior, superior, above, below. Okay? The internal pudendal artery is going to be the main artery to the perineum, traveling through the pudendal canal. And the pudendal canal is going to be made up of the fascia of the obturator internus. Okay? That's going to be important that the internal pudendal artery goes through the pudendal canal. If anything happens to that canal, if anything happens to the fascia of the obturator internus, it may injure this artery. The internal pudendal artery gives off 3 branches. And you'll notice why this becomes the main artery to the perineum, okay? So, its first branch is going to be the dorsal artery of the penis, or the clitoris. Second is going to be the inferior rectal artery. And the third is going to be the perineal artery, or perineal artery, sorry. Okay? And the perineal artery splits into 3 as well. It's going to be the artery of the bulb of the penis, or the vestibular bulb, depending on which sex. The deep perineal branch, or the deep artery of the penis and the clitoris. And the posterior scrotal, or the posterior labia. That's what it's going to go to. All right. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. It talks about where the arteries go. The only thing to note in these branches of the internal pudendal artery, which again goes through the pudendal canal, is that the inferior rectal artery is going to be the site of the portocable anastomosis. You guys probably already know the sites for the portocable anastomosis, and all of them are going to be very important. What 2 arteries or what 2 veins are anastomosing there, right? So we have the esophageal portocable anastomosis. We have the anterior abdominal wall, and we have the rectal portocable anastomosis. That's going to cause esophageal varices, caput medusa, and hemorrhoids. Depending on where the hemorrhoids are, they're either going to be internal or external. All right. So inferior rectal is going to anastomose with the superior rectal and form that portocable anastomosis. It's going to be more a venous thing than an arterial thing, but regardless. So the next branch off the anterior trunk that we'll talk about is the middle rectal artery. And it supplies the rectum and also participates in the portocable anastomosis with the superior and inferior rectal arteries. Okay. The next branch is the uterine artery. And this is mostly going to be in women, obviously. But it is an important branch because it's the major blood supply to the uterus, and it gets larger during pregnancy, and it courses through the broad ligament and over the ureter. So in women, they have the uterine artery that goes over the ureter. Okay, water goes under the bridge. That's how we remember it. The ureter is going to be the water, and the bridge is going to be this uterine artery. All right, so that's going to be an important concept because if you're doing a hysterectomy, you're taking out that vessel, you don't want to mistake the ureter for the uterine artery. Okay, we'll stop there for the video time.